Sibylla of Jerusalem, the tragic queen who risked everything for love, destiny, in the Holy Land. In the 12th century, amidst the turmoil of the Crusades, a fragile Christian kingdom was born, the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Founded by European knights, this kingdom was an anomaly in a sea of unified Muslim enemies. And at the heart of this fragile kingdom was a woman whose story is often overshadowed by knights and kings. Her name, Sibylla of Jerusalem. Sibylla's story is not a fairy tale about a princess gaining a throne. It is a story of inheritance, political intrigue, forbidden love, and a sacrifice that led to the greatest catastrophe for the Crusader kingdom. She chose her love, and for that, she was accused of having sacrificed the holy city. Who was this tragic queen? Let's delve into her fate, as recorded in both Christian and Muslim chronicles. The fragile heir to the throne, Sibylla, was born around 1160, the daughter of King Amaric I and his first wife, Agnes of Courtenay. Although her parents' marriage was annulled due to political pressure, Sibylla and her younger brother, Baldwin, were still recognized as legitimate heirs. Sibylla was raised under the supervision of her aunt at the monastery of St. Lazarus in Bethany, receiving an education befitting a Christian noblewoman. Our primary source from that time, William of Tyre, a historian and archbishop, was an eyewitness to this early life. Her destiny changed drastically after her younger brother, Baldwin IV, was diagnosed with leprosy. Baldwin IV, later known as the heroic and intelligent Leper King, could not have an heir. The eyes of the entire kingdom turned to Sibylla. Marrying Sibylla became the main political priority, as whoever married her would hold the key to the throne. In 1176, Sibylla married the influential European nobleman, William Longsword of Montferrat. Hope shone briefly, but soon faded. A year later, William died of malaria, leaving Sibylla a widow and pregnant. Their son was born shortly after and named Baldwin V. Sibylla, now Countess of Jaffa and Ashkelon, was the key to the kingdom, becoming the most valuable and most debated piece in the power game of the Middle East. Scandal, Guy, and the divide years passed, and the debate over Sibylla's new husband continued to heat up. The nobles pressured Sibylla to marry for stability. And then, in 1180, Sibylla made a shocking, and for many, fatal choice: Guy of Lusignan. Guy was a Poitevin nobleman who had just arrived in the Holy Land. He was charismatic, but lacked political experience and, most importantly, was disliked by many senior barons, especially Raymond III of Tripoli, who was also the king's cousin. This marriage split the nobility into two feuding factions. As recorded in the continuation of William of Tyre, written by figures who disliked Guy, the division deepened as Baldwin IV's leprosy worsened. Guy was briefly appointed regent, but Guy's reckless and provocative behavior on the Muslim border, especially in facing Saladin, enraged Baldwin IV. The dying king removed Guy from the regency, even attempting to annul Sibylla and Guy's marriage. However, Sibylla held firm to her love. In a final attempt to save the kingdom from collapse, Baldwin IV took a drastic measure. Before his death in 1185, he crowned his young nephew, Baldwin V, Sibylla's son, as king. Raymond of Tripoli was appointed regent. This was an attempt to delay the succession conflict. However, fate had other plans. A year later, Baldwin V died mysteriously. Suspicions of poison spread. The path for Sibylla was wide open, and she was about to take it. The queen who deceived the barons with her son's death, Sibylla's claim to the throne was undeniable. However, the barons who opposed Guy allied once again. They agreed to crown Sibylla as queen, but with one cruel condition: she must divorce Guy. Sibylla, as the daughter and sister of kings, had a stronger right than anyone, and she knew it. Sibylla agreed. She would divorce him, but, as the newly crowned queen, she demanded the royal prerogative to choose her new husband. The climax occurred on the day of the coronation. At the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, Sibylla was anointed as Queen of Jerusalem. Afterward, in front of all those who opposed her and applauded the sacrifice she made, she held a second crown. Instead of choosing another nobleman, she called Guy, her formerly divorced husband, and bravely crowned Guy herself. She is said to have declared, "I choose you as king and my lord, for what God has joined, man cannot separate." Sibylla had deceived the barons. This political maneuver was a complete success. The opposition crumbled. One of the main challengers immediately swore allegiance. Sibylla and Guy were now the legitimate king and queen of Jerusalem. This was a victory for her love and political astuteness. However, this personal triumph had devastating consequences for the entire kingdom, which was now ruled by two people who were disliked and considered weak by many. The disaster of Hattin and the fall of the Holy City beyond the court intrigue, storm clouds were gathering. Saladin, Sultan of Egypt and Syria, had unified the Muslim world and was ready to attack the divided Crusader kingdom. Records from Muslim historians, such as Imad ad-Din al-Isfahani and Baha ad-Din ibn Shaddad, show how organized Saladin's forces were. In July 1187, Guy of Lusignan, now king, led the majority of the Crusader army in a fatal strategic error. They marched under the scorching sun, exhausted and desperate for water, towards Tiberias. At the horns of Hattin, the Crusader army was annihilated by Saladin's forces. It was a total catastrophe. The Battle of Hattin claimed the lives of thousands of knights and, even worse, led to the capture of King Guy. Guy was captured. Queen Sibylla was left in Jerusalem to lead the defense. With most of the kingdom's army dead or captured, the defense of Jerusalem was unsustainable. In October 1187, under siege by Saladin, Sibylla and the city's leaders, including Balian of Ibelin, were forced to surrender Jerusalem. Sibylla had lost the city she ruled in just over a year. This was the second fall of Jerusalem, the tragic end and legacy after the fall of Jerusalem. Sibylla was allowed to leave. She immediately negotiated with Saladin and succeeded in securing Guy's release. Reunited, the royal couple joined the remnants of the Crusader forces gathering at Tyre and Acre. They were determined to reclaim the kingdom. Sibylla remained fiercely loyal by Guy's side, even amid deep resentment from many who blamed Guy for Hattin and the loss of Jerusalem. However, her tragic story was not over. During the long and terrible siege of Acre, disaster struck the Crusader camp. Infectious disease. In the summer of 1190, both of Sibylla's daughters, Alice and Maria, died. Soon after, Sibylla herself followed. She died around July 1190, at the age of about 30. Her death marked the end of the Anjou bloodline in Jerusalem and opened a new succession crisis. Sibylla of Jerusalem, the queen who dared to deceive the barons to crown her husband, and then lost everything, including the holy city and both her daughters, in just 4 years. She may not have been a great queen in military affairs, but she was a symbol of unwavering loyalty. She proved that amidst brutal warfare and politics, a queen could choose love over the throne. Sibylla's dramatic story is based on the primary chronicles of the Crusader period, from both Latin and Muslim sides. Key sources include William of Tyre and the continuation of Ernul, which provide the Christian court perspective. Modern historians, such as Stephen Runciman and Bernard Hamilton, help analyze the motives behind her decisions. Was Sibylla a loyal hero, or a queen blinded by love? Write your opinion in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of the Crusader kingdoms.